They seem very busy. I don't know what's going on in Chicago, but hi, everybody. Welcome to the show. It's Hal Sparks' radio program, Megaworldwide. We'll be starting in just one moment. That's Johnny Million. He's got a live stream called It's Johnny Million twice a week, YouTube and Twitch. I'm just saying, even though Twitch geolocated, geo-banned, I guess you would call it, Israeli channels for a little while on the down low.
Wow.
Which seems a mite bit anti-Semitic there, Twitch. What's happening? Not a good week for Bezos, it seems. Bezos, telling the Washington Post.
Because that's why the Prime works on there.
That's right. That's right. Because Amazon owns it and all that kind of stuff. Not a good look. He's trying to out Musk right now. I don't know why that would be. I don't know why you think that's a winning move. It seems a little weird, but they literally...
you say out Musk, if for some reason I think 1, 2, 3 lockbox. Out Musk.
Musk. Chicago, are we going live soon?
Reading the Alex Van Halen biography that... the reason
come up in 20 seconds, guys.
Okay, thank you.
The reason Alex wasn't in on any of the reunion, Alex didn't want to do any of that stuff is because of Sammy Trash Eddie in his book.
Right. Yeah, and it's his brother. I can see that.
Yep. Loyalty
even if
above
it's
all
true.
else.
Mm-hmm. Okay, we're getting ready to start, everybody. Welcome to the show. Like, subscribe, share the show out so people know it's here. I don't do the notification bell thing because I'd rather it be organic. All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, can I please have your attention? And I need all of you to stop what you're doing and listen.
Now, live from Chicago, the Hal Sparks radio program Mega Worldwide.
I have come here to chew bubblegum and kick ass.
Hal Sparks, actor, comedian, and multimedia personality.
And I'm all out of bubblegum.
Hal Sparks.
All right, let's do this.
Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide. We are one show away. Well, this one also, I guess we're just starting. So 2 shows away from the election. Very excited.
Ooh.
I will be doing a 24-hour... I will be voting on Tuesday. And I will say I will be doing a 24-hour live stream on election day from noon to noon on my sites. Hopefully I can get Johnny Million to
signed up
pop
to be
in.
a special guest.
Yes, Johnny Million will be hopping in there, maybe playing some guitar, keeping me awake.
Oh,
maybe I'll get some. I need to find some people in a different time zone in case I doze off, and they can start yammering for me at about
up for Tuesday
4 a.m.
the 5th. I hope that's what I was confirming with Andrea. And so Tuesday the 5th is right before. It'll be right before my stream. So maybe we can take that into my stream.
Love it. Yeah, we'll toss it over to you, and I will keep going and watching the returns as they come in and all that kind of stuff, and playing with cats and calming everyone down because she's going to win, and handily, and just letting you guys know. Huh? Yes, the cats always win. I think that's what we've learned in this. Now, the big news, of course, besides the fact that there's what would arguably be a very large escalation in the Middle East, caused, by the way, not by Israeli counterstrikes in Iran, but Iran firing missiles in the first place. I would like to remind everyone that seems to be doing historic needle drops right now, that and this includes a lot of the big newspapers, that they see this. There's a huge escalation that Israel is doing what are effectively surgical strikes, which is also one of my favorite Queensryche songs, in really Iran on military sites. Yeah, it's an amazing record. People seem to think that that's the escalation and not the firing of missiles by Iran at Israel in retaliation for them. Israel retaliating against Hezbollah troops in Lebanon, which, by the way, there seems to be some confusion amongst the Trump world, and maybe even a little bleed into what I would call the Jill Stein adjacent crowd. Real quick, this week, it was reported that Donald Trump said, and there's been no denial from him or Netanyahu, as a matter of fact, he's boasted about it, that Trump said, do what you gotta do to Benjamin Netanyahu in regard to Gaza and the Palestinians. Do what you gotta do. Yeah, do what you gotta do. And by the way, in case anybody says do what you gotta do, to make a two-state solution happen. No, that was also in the context of calling them, the Palestinians, a cancer and the problem. So any of our uncommitted, hashtag uncommitted friends who are, you can be that way, but please don't pretend you care about Palestinians in this, because Harris and Biden have both been working towards a two-state solution. That is their priority. And Benjamin Netanyahu knows that if Trump gets in, he will allow him to turn Gaza and most of the West Bank into parking lots and foundations for future Kushner condos. And Harris will continue to push for a two-state solution and a balanced response in the area, just for the record. So anybody who's even pretending that somehow, you know, throwing around the Genocide Joe stuff, saying Harris is either insane or flat out, and I think this is probably more the fact, just lying to you. They're just lying about their motivations, because they are either more than likely, you know, Sunni or Shia, and they have picked their side in that battle, or they are allied with the Saudis in the wiping out of the Palestinians, so we can just clear the decks and start from scratch, which seems to be the Saudi position going forward, which is, you know, and again, so Israel has responded strategically with strikes inside Iran on military sites. And insofar as we can see, and I think Iran would be the first to say it, very little or no civilian casualties or collateral damage, as it's called, to that, unlike the attacks on Israel from Iran, which seemed to be pretty just open fire. And the only reason there wasn't civilian deaths and massive casualties is because of the Iron Dome and the U.S. military THAAD systems that knocked those out of the way. So had it not been for the shield, the Iran sword would have plunged straight into the heart of every Israeli, including the Muslim Israelis, of which there are many, and some of which who actually serve in government, unlike, you know, the other side, as it were. Okay, so that's it. Big story.
Israelis, if you will.
Yes. A huge story, very complex, been going on for thousands of years. Oh, that Abrahamic tradition just turning on itself. It's basically the best description, I think, is in terms of our Christian, Jewish, and Muslim brethren, that they are effectively the children of the patriarch who is laying on his deathbed, and they are fighting over who gets to keep the house. And you know what I mean? Because it all stems from the same thing, but they are arguing about who gets to be the first heir, right? Which brings us to Donald Trump and why he's kind of their perfect person. And I would like to play you a little piece, and I apologize for this out of the gate, of Trump on Joe Rogan, which is all the talk of the town. It's almost as big as his trip to McDonald's, which apparently Trump is not aware that he became an AI meme. Johnny, did you see the AI videos that were made we asked AI to show us what it would look like with Donald Trump working at McDonald's, and they put in a couple of pictures, and it's just like him throwing French fries and just sucking them out of the like a fire hose of French fries out of a holder and stuff. It's pretty great. Yeah. So, but this is one of the most telling things, and there's a lot of things to talk about from that, certainly, but there's one detail in the story about his McDonald's trip that stood out to me, and let's see if you can see what it is.
So I did McDonald's last week.
I saw that.
And I actually got a call from your friends at Google, from Sundar. That's pretty good, right? He said, this is the biggest thing we've had in years.
At McDonald's?
At McDonald's. Did you know that? It was one of the...
It was funny.
Who's a great guy, by the way, but he said... This McDonald's thing, I want to tell you, it's one of the biggest things we've ever had on Google. It just hit. But the reason I did, and I actually, you never know about this stuff. I thought it was a throwaway. Mm-hmm. I didn't think our conversation was a throwaway, but I thought I'd walk in, and that was only to highlight the fact. And I have a friend, he owns like 56 of these McDonald's. And
did you hear that part? That's the part.
Friend who owns 56 McDonald's?
I have a friend, he owns like 56 of these McDonald's, and...
Yeah, and then wait.
He said, "Do you want to use one?" I said, "Yeah, I love it." So we went.
I have a friend who owns 56 of these McDonald's. Would you like to use one of them? And I said, yeah. Ladies and gentlemen.
What does that mean, using a McDonald's? Because I know that I abuse a McDonald's from time to time.
You do, absolutely. I've gotten phone calls from McDonald's drive-thrus that you've gone through just about how they just feel.
I just wanted one more McNugget. Just one.
Yeah, it's always one more McNugget, Johnny. It's always.
It's hard to order,
and it's never enough. It really, they won't let you a la carte order a McNugget? Really? That seems strange for a place that packages their meals in easily understandable portions over the years. Can I have one fry? I'm really watching.
Johnny, give me the other three.
I just want the one.
So, again, 56. Now, 56 McDonald's. I have a friend who owns 56 McDonald's. And, we lost Johnny, but he'll be back in just a second.
Yeah.
I don't know why that is.
I don't know what happened to my video.
I don't know. He became semi-invisible. It's all right. 56 McDonald's. And would you like to use one of them? Which I believe would be a contribution in kind, it would seem, of some unknown financial level. That seems like it would cost more than $2,500 to keep a McDonald's open, or close it for 9 hours so you could do this event and stage a thing there. So that would be more than you're allowed to contribute to a campaign. Yes?
Oh.
Seemingly? Would that be a violation of campaign finance law? Never mind the fact that Trump has friends who own 56 McDonald's and lets him use them for campaign stunts where he basically mocks working people. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Of these McDonald's. And he said, "Do you want to use one?" I said, "Yeah, I love it." So we went.
Love it. I don't like him.
Nah. Yeah, he's starting to he's starting to wear on me. Yeah. There's so much. I mean, the other one, of course, and I got to check this one for audio. Hold on one second.
What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. It's a vibration because you have those. Those things at 50 stories.
That one's sped up.
It feels digitally sped up. Yeah.
It is sped up. I don't know why somebody put
can
that.
Avoid a copyright.
Maybe.
Maybe.
It isn't though. Hold on one second.
Did you ever look at certain parts of California where they have heavy wind? Did you ever look at certain parts?
It's pollution.
It's so bad.
It is
whale come ashore. Now they had like 18 come in the last year.
What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Oh God! He's asking Donald Trump what's going on with the whales.
What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. It's a.
Oh my effing God!
Yeah.
18 come in the last year.
What is the?
Hold on. That's the part where I want to queue up. Just. Oh, and never mind.
I'm going to defer to you,
wait,
Mr. Expert of the whales.
Holy hell. That's not even the dumbest part. That's ridiculous. But at one point, both. All right, hold on. Wait, I'm going to save it till we get back on the air because I'm going to lose my mind. And I'm going to try. Thank you. I'm going to try not to swear because good Lord. And hi, chat room. Love you guys. Welcome. Hello.
Hands on the button already for you guys.
Oh, you heard us going.
Oh my God. It's so stupid. Hold on, open this up. There you go. All right. Now, I should have a chat window in here too, just to, why should, you know what I mean? You know what I mean? Know what I'm saying? Know what I'm saying? Browser.
No, I'm saying.
Nah,
Chat box. Okay. Take this over here.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Okay. So I got to tell you, it's really it's really hard. It's really difficult to find out what's the dumbest part of Trump's interview with Rogan. Because, again, so much has been made in the last, 12 hours or whatever about Trump's answers, which should come as no surprise to anyone, are completely insane or stupid or boring, blather, self-involved nonsense. Okay, it really is. There are three categories for all of his answers, and they fall into one. They're either like boring blather that just nobody would be interested in but him, that he seems fixated on, which is, or it's completely insane, or it's just a political lie. Let me give you an example. So they're talking about windmills, and Trump does his regular thing about the windmills are, bird graveyards and stuff. And if they don't have somebody come in there and sweep up all the dead birds, you'd see all these dead birds. Like there's a conspiracy to clean up the bird carcasses in front of these things. Like that's part of the servicing of these things. Listen to this mini exchange right here.
What is happening with the whales? I've read about this.
Well, they say that the wind drives them crazy. It's a vibration because you have those, those things that 50-story buildings, some of them.
Right, and they're
50.
super sensitive to vibrations.
They have
and
those,
sounds.
the wind is rushing, the things are blowing, it's a vibration, and it makes noise. You know what it is? I want to be a whale psychiatrist. It drives the whales freaking crazy. Did you ever look at certain...
So all right.
Maybe you can do that after he loses the election.
Yeah, it's a great gig. Knock yourself out, dum-dum. And it was 3 hours of that stuff. And he was late for his Michigan rally, and people were waiting for hours and hours. They had, I think, 2 people collapse there again. And what did he do? He asked his people to play Ave Maria while they tend to somebody who's keeled over at his, at his event. It's, again, oh my God. By the way, share the show, like, subscribe. My regular live stream is now being turned into a podcast, the Hal Sparks podcast, Megaworldwide. Please subscribe wherever you get your podcasts, or wherever you don't, quite frankly, if you're being naughty. All right. So
remind me to tell you what Ty said about us talking about him. Sorry.
Aw, I will. That'll be a part of the happy ending, you think, probably?
Sure, let's do that.
By the way, I'm showing this on air real quick because it just came up in my feed, and I've seen it a couple of times, and it's going on. People might see this around. But ladies and gentlemen, this would be a picture that I'm showing online at infotainmentwars.com. We don't need the documents. We have everything memorized.
Who's that?
That's Kamala Harris in her McDonald's uniform.
Oh, my goodness.
Mm-hmm. And that, I got to say, the hutch behind her tells a huge story because...
That's everything. And the stripes, that's everything.
Yeah. So the timing, the hutch, the amount of shellacked, like the lacquer cabinet hutch behind her. Just, I know this family. I now know I've been in this house. You know what I mean? We all have. So anyways, that's out there and circulating right now. But the issue I have, honestly, with this story about, Trump going to McDonald's and stuff is not so much that he's like, I've now worked longer at McDonald's than, than she did, blah, blah, like this weird dunk that he was trying to do, which turns out to be false and is just silly. It's his idea that, and I think the most offensive thing of the entire thing is that he thinks doing the activity is doing the job, right? That's the thing, that all he has to do is, show up, do it a couple of times. I've now worked here. When a lot of us, the work that you do at work is not the tasks you do at work. It's the showing up in the morning and being there consistently and responding during the day to changes in what's going on around you. That's what makes you a worker. A worker at McDonald's or any other restaurant that works burgers doesn't flip burgers. That's not what they're doing. There's not just kind of like a rudimentary task. It's the volume flexibility of the number of people coming in during a rush. It's showing up on time and leaving your station cleaner than it was when you showed up yourself. Those kind of things. That's the work. And anybody who's had a real job. And again, there's parquet flooring at malls in the Chicagoland area that if you're walking on it, I laid it because I put it down when my dad got me a summer job doing construction when he was working for Main Street department stores. And so when those were Main Streets, which I think are now Kohl's, I did flooring. That was my gig for 2 summers in a row. I also did construction on the guest house that we lived in as well. So if you were in that, Johnny, are you frozen? Are you moving? Are you there? You seem frozen.
I'm here. Okay,
you sit. Yeah. No, yeah, your image is frozen though, so I'm not going to mess with it though.
Damn it,
because it seems to be wonky. It's okay. It's all right. As long as I can hear you, we're fine. But that's the work. The work is responding to all the other stuff, right? The work is. Hold on, I'm going to try and do this and refresh this guy right here. Maybe that'll do it.
No, for some reason on the Ninja thing, it keeps changing the video source to disabled. I'm sorry.
That's okay. No, it happens. I'm being attacked. It's the deep state or something like that. Anyways, the point being is what I'm trying to say is that he thinks just doing the task of a job is the same as doing the job itself. It's the same thing. It's the contempt he has for working people that he's had for his entire life, because there's been no situation with his sons even where like Eric does this thing about pouring concrete he talks about, which is a euphemism for dealing with the mob, clearly. But none of them are doing any of the spackling of walls or vacuuming the apartments or working in the buildings to get a work ethic about themselves. None of them did that. They all just got management positions as soon as they were old enough to do it. They never, he never said, you guys are going to figure out what it takes to build a building. So you're going to get construction jobs and all that kind of stuff, which is what my dad attempted to do when, he was like, maybe he'll be an architect like me. Right?
Sure.
Yeah. That, when I was in high school, he didn't do any of that stuff because he wouldn't do any of this. As a matter of fact, he thinks it's below him. And this is why he says black jobs. So what I've been trying to clarify for people, the reason he thinks they're taking black jobs and stuff is that not all jobs are black jobs, but bless you, black people only have jobs. A job is what you have instead of a career, right? A job is what you have that's drudgery. You're on a treadmill. You don't feel like you're making any progress. And you might do that job as a sidecar to your career while you put yourself through school, like Kamala Harris did, right? That's a lot of us have jobs to pay for our, to finance our career or our desire to, do something better, or our education, those kind of things, right? Trump never had to do that. So a job is below you, right? He was a legacy admission to Horton. He didn't learn a thing while he was there. Everything he learned from his father, make sure there are as few black people in your buildings as possible, unless they're the daughter of the president of Congo and they're buying your apartments in cash for $7 million a pop and never setting foot in them, right? That's fine. But if they live there, if you have to see them in the lobby, that's bad, right? And the other thing is, like the stories of him going to, famously going to what is the accountant firm that he had working for him, and there were black accountants there, and he didn't want them working on his account because he wanted the people
with the little hat.
With the little hats, the people with the small hats, right? And we all know what that means. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Now with 100% more, Johnny Million. One of the dumbest things. Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I told Ty that we were talking about had to move. And he said that he recorded that in a hurry in a hotel room on his 16 track with a drum machine because he was trying to get something to Metal Blade Records for a record deal.
Well, it worked.
It did work. So that whole thing's a drum machine, and it's friggin' fantastic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that Naomi Solar Pumpkin seems like he's using the same drum machine on almost all of it. Like he was writing it and stuff, and then he did there was a follow-up one where he re-recorded them with a live band or whatever. And you know,
Moonflower Lane, I think.
Yeah, Moonflower Lane has a lot of those. Yeah. Which is fine but I like the original versions. I mean, that's like demo-itis always does that, because the first time you hear it, you got
to beat the demo, and that's not easy.
20 seconds.
No, it is not. Thank you. The first Winger record, that was the problem that they had, because he basically recorded everything but the guitar solos.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. That's how he works. He has a big studio in his house that he paid for with Alice Cooper money, because he was Alice Cooper's bass player.
Right.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
I gotta say, there is a lot of stuff that Trump says that's idiotic blather, and even at one point Joe Rogan saying your weave's getting a little wide here. I want to get back to tariffs is I think the quote, where you really do see
those words.
Yes, he did, because Trump's all over the map like he always is. Because here's the thing, the weave is a thing that they came up with to like. Somebody around him, it's like one of those, yeah, boss, you know what I love about what you do? I love it when you, they call it rambling, but you like weave it all together. And he's like, well, we'll call it the weave. That's how that happens, right? So and then he starts using that as an excuse. And the problem is, that's like patchwork, where any candidate would use that once and then realize, I've been rambling. And we'll call it that. Yeah, I kind of do the weave sometimes. And then you never do the weave again.
Yeah,
you stick to message.
Reel it in.
Yes, you go back to actually, you like we made it over that speed bump. We're cleaned it up. Now we're ready to, really do the job that I'm here to do, instead of just yammering on about how much I hate the legal system and the press. Right? Okay. So at one point, clearly, even like Rogan's, he says your weave is getting a little wide, Trump, the problem with selling that to Trump, unlike other candidates, is that Trump now views the weave as permission to ramble. That people like it. He thinks the weave is the same as his dance, which again, he does not know he's a meme. He's that weird what Johnny's miming in a way that I can't describe on the radio. But
describe it for the radio.
No. Have you seen the Dave Bautista video?
Yes. He is just on fire.
Yeah. Okay. That was written by a Daily Show writer or a Kimmel writer. That was written by a Kimmel writer who used to work on the Daily Show, I think. And they've been wanting to put that together for a long time, and so they asked him if he would do it, and because they were I guess he was a guest on the show, and they were talking about it, and he was like, he was obviously he's not on, he was like, anything I can do, and so they filmed this whole thing. It was great. It was a great segment, but his description of Trump's dance was, I gotta say, pretty choice. It was exactly. Yeah. So the same thing is, but Trump thinks people like that. Like his own people and his the front row Joes, those people, if they tell you that if they see him do something really weird that we don't like, that the rest of the public goes, that's ridiculous, that's embarrassing, stop that, they like it even more. But they insist, I would say they insist on liking it, even if they don't, which I think is, if there's ever an example of being in a cult, that's it. I will prove to the world my fidelity to this ideology by debasing myself on some front, either willfully embarrassing myself or subjugating myself to the cult leader. But people, cult women who have sex with the cult leader just to prove the rest of the world wrong, those kind of things, and the purity of him and all that kind of stuff, like Koresh or any of those idiots, right? It's a very similar thing that like. Not only do I not mind, that's my favorite thing, right? That's where they go with it.
Adore it.
Yes, it's it's not just great, it's awesome. And the dance became that thing. And it just gets worse. And the weird thing is, it looks like somebody on Saturday Night Live doing an impersonation of his dance from the video with Jeffrey Epstein. The famous video where he's doing the white man's overbite and pointing at chicks and like clapping his hands together, kind of like David Brent in the British Office. You know what I mean?
Oh, awful.
It's just
all these girls love me, or they're gonna love me.
Yeah, right. It's so awful. And again, this has led us to how Harris why he won't debate her again, why he didn't show up for the town hall that they offered, why he didn't do 60 Minutes, is because he took the bait when she threw it at him in the first debate. I mean, that was the first real debate I've ever seen where he took debate. And all she had to do was like flick his ego and he would spiral. And he spiraled not just in the actual debate, but for days. He's still doing it. He's still grinding on stuff she said at the debate, which again should be disqualifying. If you're looking for a reason to not vote for someone, the idea that somebody in a single debate could wind them up and get them defensive about crowd size for weeks is enough, right? Because if you could be manipulated on such a small little phrase, then what's it going to be like?
That's sticky.
Yes, it shouldn't be that difficult to pull off.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I think stands out to me was if you go back, I like going back. I've made this kind of reference over the years, but the movie 2012 or any of the specials about 2012, and the Mayan calendar ending became comedies on January 1st of 2013. And the more intense and severe they were, the funnier they are. It's like cute. It's Y2K stuff. So maybe some people don't know this. I opened for the Bee Gees on New Year's 1999, into 2000. At Panther Pavilion, I did stand up in front of 15,000 people opening for the Bee Gees.
Awesome.
And then I threw for NBC. I threw to them after we counted down midnight. They threw to us, and I said, "Ladies and gentlemen, the Bee Gees," and I introduced them, and they played "Stayin' Alive," which I happen to think is a hilarious Y2K gag. That's funny.
Oh yeah.
That was the whole point of it. Was what was they're playing? We're not dead. They're playing "Stayin' Alive" or whatever. Now, there's a myriad of reasons why that was doing stand up, giving a speech, 15,000 people, not difficult at all. I got to tell you, I've done it. It's not a big deal. The size of a crowd when you're giving a speech, not a problem. Playing music, same thing. The only issue you have then is if you ask people to clap along with you, you could tell people who are used to playing bars or smaller venues, they're the ones who ask the audience to clap with them. Because in a venue that has more than 3,000 people in it, the slapback flow of multiple claps just throws everything off. It's horrifying, right? A stadium cannot clap in unison because of how sound travels, right? So anyways, but doing stand-up where you're waiting for laughs and then the laugh response and you're timing off the laugh response is that, times 10. And never mind the fact that I had a baby boomers joke at the time, which I'm still very proud of. And I was literally in a room with 15,000 baby boomers who decided if we're all going to die on Y2K, I'm going to die watching the Bee Gees. And so obviously, it's like real estate and comedy have a lot in common. Location.
Yeah.
And the Irishman. Anyways, so yeah, and timing. Anyways, point being is that these huge environments where you're doing this stuff. It's it's a different feedback mechanism, right? And Trump, ironically enough, shows up late for this thing, and he's grinding on like how his crowd size is huge crowd size. Last night, Summer and I went to the UNLV game. They were playing Boise. They lost by a couple of points.
Yeah.
Oh, womp womp.
Yeah,
But,
I just watched the highlights of that game.
yeah, it was a great game, but it was very close, and they, basically held at one point on the third quarter. It didn't really move, but it was a great game. 42,428 people, I think it was, in that arena, right? And that's with all the stands full. Obviously not the floor, because that's where the field is, but up to and including the upper area on Allegiant. Yeah. It's a huge space and a record turnout crowd for UNLV, right? Great thing happening for them. Summer and I used to park very close, and tickets were very cheap. Luckily, Summer's son works for them and does video for them, so we're able to go to games and that kind of stuff we want to. So it's really nice. But the point is, you're in this kind of venue, and you're aware what 40,000 people looks like. And then you look at these little gatherings with Trump where half the venue is empty, most of the people are behind him, and the audience in front of him is pretty darn sparse. And he has to know this because he's seen the 42,000 crowd. He's seen the 60,000 crowd, right? He's seen, because if you take the crowd we had last night and you fill the floor, that'll add another 8,000 people. So about 50,000 in that venue. In Allegiant, if you use the floor, if it's packed and you don't use the top tier, you're just the second tier. Trump's not even filling the second tier, and the floor is half full, and even the back part. It's one thing, you lose everybody behind you usually in one of these situations, because like at a band performs, everybody behind you is gone, right? Because that's where the stage is, and there might be some side stuff, but mostly that you're losing a quarter of the arena to just backstage, as it were.
Right.
Trump is losing those in front of him now, and he's putting the people behind him to make it look full. And he's pulling in, like I said, when I saw him in Vegas, and I know we have some maggots in the audience and in the chat room that show up, and I want to thank you for being here, because this is the one chance you're going to get to hear the truth about Dear Leader. But when I went to the Vegas rally that he had here, where he said there was 21,000 people, there was just under 3. There was about 2,700 people. 2,700 people. The place he was in can only hold 3,000, maxed out. If you absolutely crowbarred every human being into that space, you could legally do, without the fire department shutting you down, 3,000 people in that space. The whole park for a mile couldn't hold 21,000 people. Even if you just had a park fair thing where it was just open and there were shops and concerts and all kinds of stuff for the entire park, everywhere, couldn't hold that many people, right? Not only was there not 21,000 people there, not only was there not 3,000 people there, but once you got past the press wall, there was no one. There was 2 food trucks and a bunch of open grass. And the entire time I was
there. And a bunch of open grass.
It's a great, it's one of my favorite songs. Yeah. Your favorite what song?
My favorite Beck song.
Yeah, right.
Beck. Yeah.
2 food trucks and open grass.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am a taco truck. So not only that, open grass and all this stuff, but there was also a regular flow to the heat, to the cooling tent, which is a wonderful Trump euphemism for a med center for all the people passing out in 107-degree heat. And let me tell you something. He rolled up, did his thing, rambled on. People were keeling over left and right, but because they were behind the press wall by the time they fell over, never heard about it. The only reason you hear about it now is because the only people that are there are the people who are staying, who are in front of the press wall. The front row Joes are now keeling over at his events because they're staying for 8 hours. They're standing. There's no food. They're drunk, a lot of them. It's a mess. right? It's just brutal. And so the lesson gained, I think, from from Trump's Rogan thing last night, which he intentionally went on to counterbalance her being in Houston. That's why they scheduled it, him being in Austin to do this thing. Was just because
Texas thing.
Yeah, because there's a couple things. One is Ted Cancun Cruz needs all the help he can get because he's going to lose. He's going to lose to Colin Allred.
I really hope so.
Yeah. I mean, if the turnout's even remotely reasonable, Ted Cruz is going to lose. He is unpopular and lame and boring and a wiener. He's a dweeb, and everybody in Texas knows it. And Colin Allred. He's a dweeb. He's a total dweeb. And Texas has, I don't know what it is, but has a thing for dweebs, or has for a while. And maybe they're getting over it eventually. They like posers.
Where Santorum was from?
I don't know because I refuse to Google Santorum. But
yeah, you can't.
But the point is, last night she had 30,000 people in this packed arena with her and Beyonce and Willie Nelson. Coming out there and telling everybody to vote for Kamala. And needless to say, Trump felt like he had to race down and defend territory. And that, he even said during the Rogan thing, she should be in a swing state, but she's lazy or something like that. So she's not in a swing state. She came down here. Like, you don't, it's lazy to go to a state you're supposed to win hands down. Lazy ain't going to a state you're expected to lose. That's why Trump never goes. And when he does go, like, he'll go to California, but he'll go to Central California out in the desert. He can't go to a single big city except for a fundraiser with millionaires because he's got friends who own 56 McDonald's, and they'll let him use one because I guess to hell with his employees that day. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide. Good Lord. And then Rogan declaring Republicans the new rebels. That was the part that it was like.
Oh, that's so sexy.
Yeah, Santorum's Pennsylvania.
So punk rock to actually to want to tear down society in general.
Yeah, totally. Well, or hand it over to the super rich.
Yeah.
Again.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Explain to me how Elon Musk, who's the richest person in the world, I mean, obviously he's not. It's the because he's cash poor largely, and without his government contracts, that dries up really quick. He's got the promise of a lot of wealth, and a lot of it's borrowed. Again, the Saudis, one of the big investors in X was?
No.
Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Whoops, hold on. I can spell. You'll love this one, Johnny. You're gonna. Hold on. Yeah. I don't know if you can see that. You can read it.
Oh man.
Yeah. Yep.
Always the best people. I saw a headline on Fox News that said Trump's lone flaw is that he didn't always pick the best people.
Oh, yeah. Well, because it's always somebody else's fault.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
And
it's never his
General
fault.
Kelly coming out against him, he's like, yeah, well, obviously he's not a good guy.
He's the weirdest. Okay, one of the other weird things about the Rogan interview is he goes, Kelly was a bully. Thank you. Kelly was a bully, and he was a weak guy, which is just weird because bullies are weak. And he goes to Joe Rogan, bullies, you know all about bullies or something because blah blah. I'm like, why? Because UFC is nothing but bullies. It's like Bully Incorporated. What are you talking about? Like, those guys aren't bullies; they're fighters. They're as a matter of fact, they're the opposite of a bully. They're choosing only to fight people that are their same weight class.
They want to fight back.
Yeah, right. They're fighting people equally trained. It's so weird.
Welcome back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Hey, here's a little piece of news that I don't know why, but some people seem new to, and I brought it up to Johnny Million during the break. But you know who one of the big investors in Elon Musk's takeover of Twitter was, besides hedge fund manager Bill Ackerman and Oracle co-founder Larry Ellison and Prince Al-Waleed bin Talal Al Saud, the Saudi Arabian prince. Sean Diddy Combs. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Sean Diddy Combs, one of the investors that helped the richest man in the world buy Twitter for cash, which is another BS illusion. Do you get the feeling that Elon Musk's myth is as strong as Trump's, and that one of the reasons why they're both aligned is because they're both flim-flam artists who have managed...
Yeah, they're both fake billionaires.
Yeah, they have managed to get a helicopter ride to the top of Gullible Mountain. And they have set up camp there and had somebody spray, water on them to make them look, like they had sweated. Like they're, what a climb. What a climb. Even on top of that, Elon Musk referred to, he said he texts Sean Combs often. You know who's been to Diddy parties? Elon Musk. It's almost as if if Elon Musk was a little older, he would have just been on Epstein's plane.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, let's be honest.
It's the replacement. And
I presented this question, and I don't know why it took me this long to kind of articulate it this way, but I feel like it is one of the clear and obvious ways to diffuse a maggot's argument. And it's a simple question that none of them seem to be able to answer. And that question is, and I pose that to them now, to any of your MAGA friends that might be out there. How long would it take you how long would you have to be friends with Jeffrey Epstein before you figured out that he was a pedophile? How long? A month? 6 months? A year? 2 years? 5 years? You're friends. You party with the dude. You fly on his plane. He flies. He brings guests on your plane. You come onto his plane, and he's already got people on there that are a little on the young side, right? So much so that you joke about it. How long? How long would it take you? Honestly, 5 years, 10 years? Because Trump was friends with him for over 2 decades. Some people are saying 5 minutes. I disagree. I think you could get through a whole dinner party with somebody or meet them a couple of times. But friendship?
Yeah.
Right? If you're friends with someone, that's a starting date, right? You can know somebody socially, you can have an acquaintance, you can meet them a couple of times, but once you are friends, and again, we know that Donald Trump, after he allegedly kicked Epstein out of Mar-a-Lago, continued to call him at home on the regular. And the only thing that, there's no evidence that he was ever told, like people were told not to admit Jeffrey Epstein to Mar-a-Lago. It's just that he never came over there anymore. And the fallout that they had was obviously over a piece of property, not over something about Trump got upset because he was trying to recruit he did recruit one of the girls that was working there as an assistant who was underage, which is odd anyway. So I don't know why Trump has minors working in the spa at Mar-a-Lago, but allegedly he recruited someone. One of the victims says that that's where she met Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein, and where she became, she started, working for him as a minor. Why was she already working as a minor at Mar-a-Lago is, I think, the bigger question. But even still, they only had a falling out over a real estate deal gone wrong. But my biggest question seems to be unanswerable by this crowd. How long would you be friends with this person before you figured out Jeffrey Epstein was Jeffrey Epstein? And I don't mean just you keep running into this dude and you don't really know him, but you're like, oh, hey, Gary, what's happening? And you see him again, but you don't, really know them personally. You don't have private dinners. You don't go anywhere with them, right? You certainly don't. Maybe you share. The most you ever did was share an Uber someplace, right? That would be the extent of it. That'd be the longest time you spent with them. But once you start riding on their plane, they start riding on yours. And by the way, Epstein's plane was known as the Lolita Express long before, he was arrested. Long before he was mistreated. As a matter of fact, in social circles, that's what they called it for a long time, right? So again, I asked them, and somebody needs to ask Trump that if you're. This goes to his best people thing. This is why I bring it up. Because this whole thing, his big thing is like, what would you do differently? Well, I hired all the wrong people. I didn't know anybody, so I picked all the wrong people. Well, first of all, you ran on hashtag the best people, so that's not an excuse. Right? Luis, thank you so much. Please don't do Joe Rogan BS interview with Trump. Yeah, thank you. No, we're not covering any more of it. I just wanted to make that clear. Somebody needs to ask him, how can you say hashtag the best people when you were friends with Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell for over 2 decades?
Yeah.
How can you say this when you were business partners with and friends with Sean Combs for a decade and a half at least? Now, I'm sure they hung out less.
Yeah.
Because I think there's relatively obvious reasons why they hung out less than he hung out with Epstein. Because let's just say that the people at Diddy's parties are not, suffice to say, Donald Trump's type, as it were.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean, again, where do you draw a line? Because and one of the questions about the Elon Musk thing that I think people should look at is so much attention is being paid to the answers Trump gave, which are garbage. But more attention should be paid to the questions that he was asked by Joe Rogan. Not only just Joe Rogan's kind of idiotic response and kind of ignorant batting away of lies and just forgetting about it and moving on, but his opening idea that he starts off with this premise: you were once loved by The View. I wish we could play the clip because they were so nice to you. And then you run for president and the machine turns on you. Okay.
Oh,
on the one
machine,
hand, Yeah, the machine. Okay, on the one hand, Joe, on the one hand, before you run for president, you're an serious issue. If people didn't know about your past, your life, and all that kind of stuff, or you were just a game show host, I don't have to worry about you limiting my rights as a human being, or my girlfriend's rights, or my daughter, or my friend, or my child's rights, or any of those kind of things.
And they start looking a little closer.
Yeah. And secondly, the idea that the machine turns on him when he becomes a serious threat to those rights means you don't take any of this stuff seriously yourself. You can't see the difference between somebody being a TV show host and how they treat them and somebody who's running for the highest office in the land. That's pathetic.
Yeah.
We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. Philip Ittner will be joining us. He's in the States. Yeah, Phil's here. He's in the States. We'll be back. American Psycho. Mm-hmm. So, yeah. Man, oh, Shevitz. Looking at something. Share that later. Okay. I think, and let's see if Phil should be in here. I'm assuming he's Andre, he's all good for today. I mean, he might be traveling, so it's hard to say. It's a possibility. Like, insofar as I knew, yeah, he'll be ready for. Okay, yeah, he's coming.
Yeah.
As long as he's got internet wherever he is. It's just the irony that sometimes you come back to the States and depending on where you are. Obviously, Kyiv is going to have amazing internet because of the nature of the world we live in. So
yes,
it'll be better than, a section of Grand Rapids or whatever. This here. If he's not in by the time we do it, there's a thing about like the elections that I want to talk about too. Basically, that I don't see Kemp and DeSantis cheating in the elections to help Trump. I don't. There's no reason for it. I don't see it. I don't see why they would do that to themselves. See, this is these are all very loud.
Trump arrived to his event nearly 3 hours late. Now, now take a listen.
We had some other things really important, and I said, we're going to get this stuff done. And my people came to me, sir, we could cancel our evening event. I'm sure the people wouldn't mind. I said, are you crazy? I'm not canceling. There's no way. I'm not canceling. There's no way. We never even. So I apologize, but it's all about winning. We got to win, and we did some things today that will help us win.
Now, the reason
we did some things today that will help us win. He hung around at Joe Rogan's house for an extra hour, I guess, eating gummies.
We're doing well in all 7 states.
I would imagine. Because financially, he could put a dent.
I would say that, and, I think in many ways they've done a good job. In many ways they've done a bad job. But I would say that the Big Pharma wasn't.
It's the RFK question.
I've actually always gotten along very well with him. I've known him a long time. He's a different kind of a guy. He's very smart, great guy.
Stein was not on my ballot.
He's very sincere about that.
Oh, yeah, she's not. She's only in a couple of swing states.
Cool.
Yeah, she's not in Illinois. She's on Michigan, and I think they got her on in Wisconsin. That's the point.
I mean, he really is, he thinks...
If she was really running, she would really run in like California and New York, blue states, where the idea is that you're trying to drag the party bluer. Yeah. If she was true, but she's not. She's trying to hedge for Trump. That's the purpose. That's why they promote her. Yeah.
We spend a fortune on pesticides and all this stuff, and then you end up with... That chart is a terrible chart, the one previous. It's such a bad chart when you look at where we are compared to other countries that don't spend 10 cents.
Right.
So, and you save a lot of money. But, yeah.
Oh, that's, by the way, the chart he's talking about in that one is the healthcare, per capita, what we spend versus what other people spend. Okay. First of all, we spend more on healthcare in this country partly because we also have very rich people from other countries who come here for services. They fly in specifically for major surgeries. They go to Yale and they go to the Mayo Clinic and stuff like that. They go to, they get, big, wealthy donors, people like that. Oh, there he is. 15. Thank you. Yay. Perfect. There's Phil. Hurrah. Okay, hold on. Go back to here and take this off. And I'll add this. And doink. There we go.
You're locked into the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Welcome back to the show. Real quick, I'm going to bring Johnny Million in on the visual, on the live streaming. But Philip Ittner joins us right now. And Phil, are you in Michigan currently? Are you in the state of Michigan?
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'm currently in Michigan re-registering to vote.
Wow, right on.
Nice.
Yeah, they took me off the rolls apparently, so I'm having to get myself back on, and I need to show certain documents to do that. So Taking a little bit more of a process than usual, but that's okay. It'll get done in the end.
Sure. Yeah. I gotta say, there has been the numbers are looking really good from the Harris side. There does not seem to be a real, genuine get out the vote campaign on the Trump side at all. He's simply seemingly running on this "we're winning anyways" idea, and I do think there's like an ego problem that he has, that in these situations you always want to run like you're behind. Even if you're doing well, you want to run like you're behind. Yes. And it just logically that makes sense. But his ego won't let him do that, and so he is. Quite frankly, he's running, he's like, we're winning, we're way ahead, we got huge numbers, we're doing so good, we're way ahead in all the polls, which is, again, a moronic thing to say if you're trying to convince people that are low information voters, that have not voted, are low propensity voters especially. And his big problem right now is gun owners and evangelicals. They don't turn out most of the time. Most of them think the Roe v. Wade thing is done, so they don't need to go back and do it again, right? And he won't. It's just locked, so they're done. And he's not going to reach across the aisle. There's no independence there. And you got people like you flying into the country literally to make sure. I'm sure you're not alone in this, where people are like, I want to make sure my vote is counted. I'm coming home to vote. It matters this much.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. Of course, yeah. And then, from the Russian side of things, there's this latest uncovering of the Pennsylvania ballots. Is that the latest information they have going on?
Yeah, so for people that don't know, there was a video that was purported to be someone in Pennsylvania tearing up ballots, destroying ballots that were meant for, Republicans, or the idea that it was in a Republican district and whatever. Turns out that it was a completely fabricated video created by the Kremlin. And there was a direct refutation of that. There's also been, though, a lot of what I would call shenanigans from the Republican side of things, where we have this in Pennsylvania, this guy who is like an odd choice for a Republican maggot. He's gay. He's got long brown hair. Everybody thinks he's my evil doppelganger. But he was apparently registering people to vote. He was hired, even though he had been convicted of fraud at one point, I believe it was. They chose him to be this activist and get all these Amish people in Lancaster, Pennsylvania to sign up. And then that's exactly where they just discovered, they had a press conference this week about all these fake registrations coming out of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And suddenly Lara Trump is not talking about this dude anymore. And then Trump comes on Rogan and says, you can't even trust pollsters. You pay them $500,000 and they tell you something's 2 points and it's within the margin of error. And I don't even think they asked the question and all this stuff, which means he's getting wise. Yeah, he's getting wise to the fact that Rasmussen is the Trump whisperer and all this, and has been basically his paid liar for a while. But even when they create these other polls just to basically hand him something before he goes on stage so he's not miserable. That's the only way they do it. Like, hey, you're winning. Don't say it, but you're way ahead. And we got to ride this. We got to get him to show up to the polls. But the polls say you're winning. And they show him a fake poll that says he's 6 points ahead, so he feels excited about it. Because when they don't show him that, or they show him neck and neck, he's like, what's the point? This is terrible, blah, blah. And he fades, right?
Yeah. Well, no, it also allows him to plant the seed of how could we have lost? We were so ahead in the polls.
That's right. That's right.
He is clearly prepping
yes,
for a loss at the ballot box, but then to try and do some dirty tricks.
Well, thank goodness he's not in a position of power this time around, because that was, you can lose and just be a private citizen and freak out all you want, but it's different when you're president.
Right. Well, and especially as a private citizen, if you want to hold a campaign rally on the ellipse, it takes a lot more than if you're actually the sitting president of the United States, right? It's a lot harder to actually arrange, and there will be better security if you're just a random stranger. Setting up security to push back on the president of the United States as he sits in office is a little more difficult to do, both politically and from a PR standpoint. It's not hard to do when you're a sore loser, when you're just, a rando dude. Yeah.
Yeah.
One of obviously the crossover, Bill Nelson, who's a former NASA administrator, has called for hearings about the regular contact that Elon Musk has with Vladimir Putin. Since late 2022, apparently, that Musk has report says he has discussed personal matters, business, and geopolitical tensions with Putin, and that raises national security concerns, and SpaceX's relationship with NASA and the U.S. military could have given Musk access to sensitive U.S. government information and intelligence, not the least of which is satellite stuff that he will be aware of because of launches and that kind of stuff. So it's, again, this is an ongoing problem. This kind of the geopolitical interlinking, both financially and from a business standpoint, and to some degree an ideological standpoint. People like Elon Musk and Donald Trump, who are benefiting from money from both countries at the same time, and knowing that the money that flows out of Russia is freer and has fewer fishhooks in it than it does from, say, a NASA contract.
Yeah, and it also, it calls into question your security over what is, in essence, a strategic industry. I mean, they called Howard Hughes out in front of the House Committee on Un-American Act, back in the McCarthy era, because he was the head of TWA, an airline. There was thought that it would be potentially a compromising security issue for the nation to have him too close to being a commie. And we've gone from that to having Elon Musk, who is in telecommunications with Starlink, is in rocket technology with SpaceX and all the rest of it. Is building the or helping to build the infrastructure, putting a thumb on the scale for his own Tesla machines. But all of these things are strategically important. And to have a guy like Musk cozying up to the Kremlin, and look, Putin runs a kleptocracy. It's one of the definitions of the kind of system that Putin runs is a kleptocracy. So you can't interact with corporations that are Russian without having a very dirty connection to the Kremlin itself. There are no obscenely rich oligarchs in Russia who are not connected to the Kremlin. So even if he's doing it peer-to-peer with businesses, you lie down with dogs, you wake up with fleas. So we should be absolutely concerned, and we should definitely be, getting him the tightest kind of clearance checks as possible. I don't trust him anymore, and I can throw him underhanded.
Right. Well, one of the things that I've been kind of pointing at lately is that Musk's parents made their money under apartheid, and the U.S. and the UK specifically pushing back on apartheid not only ruined their business model, the Musk family business model, but on top of that, it was very much aligned with Russia. There's a reason why BRICS, the S is South Africa, and that alliance has been going on for a very long time. And it predates the fall of apartheid. It wasn't that it was, now we can do business with them. It was quite the opposite. And Trump has been telling people for a long time, for example, that he let Nelson Mandela use his airplane in 1990 because the U.S. government wouldn't fly him in or something like that. Well, never mind the fact that was when Bush Sr. would have been president and whatever the hell. But on top of that, no, he did not. He charged Nelson Mandela $130,000 to use his plane. There was no charity to it at all, but he sold this story for a long time that it was a charitable donation, and it built like this brick of myth around who Trump was. Like, oh, isn't he this magnanimous guy? He charged him $130,000 to rent the plane. And then later on, they continue to use the plane later because Trump's airline failed. And the company that bought the planes said, oh, that's what it's used for a lot. It's used to like these kind of like Airbuses for big groups. They rent them out. You know, if you have a celebrity or something going around and they don't own their own plane for a tour or something, they'll rent this thing and then they'll paint their name on the side of it, right? And so the company that bought Trump's planes from his failed airline eventually rented a similar plane from the fleet to Mandela years later when he was going around the country. And Trump still told people that both of those were, I let him use my plane. So he and Musk have so much like in common, dating back to just pretending to be against apartheid. Yeah. So
his family history is very well. You know, his father moved from Canada to South Africa because he thought, you know, folks in North America were too much into race mixing.
Yeah.
This is where Musk comes from.
And it took Trump one meeting with Musk, one hangout where right before that event that he had, to start talking about genetics openly everywhere. Talk about, I mean, he's hinted at it for a long time. Blood of, soiling the blood of our country and all that kind of stuff that he's mentioned about this. But now he's like, it's good genes, it's genetics. And you're a believer in genetics, right? You're a believer in genetics. And these people come over and they're just, beyond the whole like low IQ individual part, which is a genetic slam that he's doing with people, because he believes that IQ is a genetic standard. That you're just born, some people are going to have a high IQ because they're born to be smart. And he thinks he's one of those people because his uncle was at MIT, right?
MIT, yeah.
But your son is Eric. So I don't know when that dried up, but it clearly didn't last, it didn't ricochet through Fred. We got to take a break. We'll come back right after this, and we'll take some questions from our chat room, some of which I have no doubt is like, how's it feel to be home? We'll be back right after this. It's the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
All right, I'm going to feed my cat.
Cat doo-doo.
Feed your cat.
He's got to do cat doo-doo. Yeah. Yep. Oh my God. Just it's just so friggin' weak. Like I get so aggravated at just this. Nice, Francis, voting early today. Who's voting or who this week? I've asked people in my live chat who's already voted. So let me know if you're voting this week in the chat room. Let us know. Beast is great. You should be in Mensa. I could. I've always been busy. I feel like I should join the Friars Club before Mensa, just as a matter of principle. Yeah. So Wall Street Journal and New York Times are both running these articles about how Musk and Putin talk regularly. And again, I don't know how.
Well, he speaks fluent Russian. So.
Yep. Yeah. And
to see if there's any result in the Georgian election that just happened today.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah, right.
Polling stations have closed about a half an hour ago.
Mm-hmm. We're starting to get fuller numbers from Russia again after the Kursk invasion because they stopped updating their numbers for a little while. Thank you. Like the numbers of Russian killed in battle, they were, we'll talk about that soon.
Attention. Stop what you're doing. Because we're coming back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Oh my God!
They went a little crazy with it, and I appreciate it.
Now let's get back with Hal Sparks' radio program, Mega Worldwide.
One of the things that we heard leading up to the 2020 election, and Trump uses this to defend himself, Phil. By the way, joining us is Philip Ittner. He's in Michigan right now because he's a registered voter there, or will soon be again, as he's come back to make sure that he's registered and can vote in this election as an American citizen. And normally when we talk to you, you're in Kyiv. And we'll talk about the fact in a moment that we're getting fresh body counts from Ukraine again about the battles, because they kind of dried up after the Kursk invasion because they didn't want to talk about it too much. But 1,690 Russian troops in the last 24 hours. Combat losses, 1,690. That's close to a record for 24 hours. Yeah, it's a lot. 687,600 current number. Although they believe it's higher, they just aren't. The numbers are coming in fresh again. There was a period where they were just kind of ignoring them. And there's apparently North Korean troops that have joined the Russians there. Although I don't believe they're at the front line of anything. I think they're going to be in residual force, because I think if a big bunch of them gets wiped out because they're undersupplied, like the rest of the Russian soldiers, they'll be held to pay, even though Kim Jong-un doesn't care about his people. But I will say that over the last little bit, as we've seen Vance saying that Ukraine's going to have to give up territory. Trump has been talking about this, that he would have it solved in 24 hours. He said this a bunch of times, which is just garbage. But you can tell what side of this they're on. They're all in on this, and it's good to see Harris is all in on our support for Ukraine. Just there's no wavering in her at all, and I think it's because he's responding to kind of the generalized maggot belief system that we got to get out of there, and that sort of isolationist, borderline libertarian, sovereign citizen attitude that they have. And Harris is responding to the vast majority of Americans that support Ukraine in this battle and recognize that Russia attacked and it's on them.
Yeah. It's, I mean, obviously a vote for the Trump Vance ticket is a vote to try and force Ukraine to surrender. Vance, I knew the character of Vance's position on this way back in the Munich Security Summit, when he refused to sit down with President Volodymyr Zelensky because he, quote unquote, already knew everything there is to know about Ukraine. Right. And I was like, oh, okay, well, now we see where J.D. Vance is all, where he, what side of the bread is buttered with him. And obviously for me, it's a single issue. I'm a single issue voter. So, I'm voting for the guy that's going to support democracy in Europe and push back against Vladimir Putin. So, or
the lady, as it were. Yes.
It's binary. It's binary. You either support a democratic Europe and pushing back against Vladimir Putin, or you support trying to force Ukraine to surrender. The thing that Trump doesn't understand, the thing that a lot of people don't understand, is that that won't work. If Zelensky bows to pressure from Trump and gives up territory for peace, he's going to be in trouble politically back home, because the vast majority of Ukrainians want that territory back, because they understand that if you let that territory go, it'll only feed the bully, and the bully is going to come back in 5 or 10 years. So Zelensky would be in real trouble. I don't know if Trump could force him to accept a surrender deal. So but it shows their ignorance as well.
Of course, it also shows that Trump is doing this whole thing about they're at the top of their game. The sharp as a tack, smart. Xi Jinping rules with an iron fist, but he's a super smart guy. Putin's at the top of his game. They know what they're doing. Strong leader, that kind of stuff. I would like to remind everyone that, in case you don't know, Russia just raised their interest rate, their key bank interest rate. Ours dropped half a point, and everybody's like, it's too fast, even though it raised 3 basis points, 3/4 of a basis point. 75 basis points, 0.75 of 1%. in like 3 months' time in a row, like whatever, or each quarter for 3-4 months in a row or something like that. You were talking about 75 basis points. Russia just raised their interest rate to 21%.
Wow.
Their Russian,
like payday loan.
The Russian interest rate, that's the starter. That's the key rate for them. That's the base rate. 21%. And Trump thinks that is a sign that Russia is doing awesome and Vladimir Putin is at the top of his game. And that economically, we want to be more like them. Thank you, Alan. 21%. Do we have any, by the way, Johnny, do we have questions for Phil? Just so I know.
Sure do.
Okay, let's grab one. Yeah.
All right, here's one from Connie Kelly. Are the North Korean deserters ending up in Ukraine or other countries? They're trying to get out of Russia, apparently.
We've heard of desertions. I've heard of some being in Ukrainian hands, but I don't know for sure. I mean, they don't have. There's not a lot of places they can go. They can't go to Belarus. They can't go deep into Russia. I suppose they could make a run at going into the Baltics, but that would be problematic of its own because you have to go all the way up along the borderline there. I don't know where most of them are going to be popping up. They might go to ground in Russia itself. You know, they have this constant problem with North Koreans because aside from this deployment, this forced deployment to the war, every year there are laborers that are brought in to service the Far East, some of the like, you know, industry out in the Far East in Russia. They'll force bring in labor, and every year these guys escape, and some of them go out into the woods and disappear for years at a time, and you know are only kind of encountered in like a, you know, the legend of Bigfoot kind of thing. You run across them in the middle of the desert, in the middle of the forest. So, I mean, it's not unprecedented. But if I were a DPRK soldier, yeah, absolutely, I'd be looking for the first Ukrainian soldier to surrender to.
Yeah, the CNN did a report, I guess years ago, even like during Trump in 2018, about a North Korean labor that basically it's, you know, they do everything they can to not call it slavery, which drives me crazy. It's like the Xinjiang cotton situation. Like the Xinjiang Muslims are being put into forced labor by the Chinese government picking cotton. You're like, you mean China has slaves picking cotton? Just say it. Good Lord. They don't have, can they leave? No. Do they get paid? No. Are they forced to like live together and basically breed replacements? Yes. Okay. That's not forced labor. Forced labor is what happens when you go to prison and they give you a hard labor sentence because you did something particularly awful and you can't just stay in your cell and wait out your term, you know, your time in jail. That's forced labor. They make you get up out of your cell and go break some rocks. This is slavery. These people didn't go to prison. They haven't committed a crime. They're just Muslims in the wrong stretch of China. And the same thing is kind of true of these North Koreans in Russia. Is like, and I guess is the idea that he hands them over to them, that Kim Jong-un, you know, it's like a trade.
Basically, in the case of the labor camps out in the East, what they do is they have a special train that they pack them into a special train that has no, you know, you can't get out, you can't see out, that sort of thing. So I don't know. I doubt that's the same that they've done with these soldiers.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, I'm sure it's more or less the same. Can't leave. Gotta fight.
Yeah. Apparently, they have to give 80% of their money that they make from Russia goes back to Pyongyang, and the other 20% they are forced to spend on stuff there. So it just they work their own food out. Like, it's so gross. It's grotesque, and it's ongoing. So Russia and China both engaging in slave labor, and we're all just kind of like, I don't know. H&M t-shirts pretty cheap sometimes. It drives me nuts. Anyways, we'll be back right after this Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide, on WCPT Radio, Chicago's Progressive Talk. Yeah.
All right, I evidently let Flora down with that last feeding. Hang on a sec.
Pitiful. Meanwhile, Summer brought me an espresso, an Americano, as it were.
Nice.
In case I'm
flagging. I got my Werner's. Werner ginger ale.
Oh my God, fantastic. The only thing I like better than Werner's, because it's spicy, is Ale 8.
Ooh.
Yeah.
I like a good strong ginger ale or ginger beer.
Yeah. Yeah, the Reed's is pretty good too. It's pretty spicy, Reed's ginger ale. That'll make Ale 8 and Werner's both make you cough when it's like when you step out into a Chicago or a Michigan winter. You take your first breath and you're like, because the air is so cold.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see if I can find that. Yeah, in St. Petersburg, they had a big. That was where that report was.
15.
Thank you. In prefabricated buildings down a muddy track on the outskirts of St. Petersburg lives a world of hidden North Korean labor in Russia. This isn't even in the far east of it. On a construction site near their shabby living quarters, a group of laborers building apartment blocks told CNN they are from North Korea. Working conditions the U.S. State Department calls slave-like labor.
You're locked in to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Yeah, we were just talking about this, and I went and looked up the original article that I found that during the Trump administration, when there was this UN resolution against the slave labor that was happening, Trump's State Department called the conditions they were working in slave-like labor. It was like slave-light. It's like, it's half the calories of regular slavery, or maybe twice, I guess, would be the irony of it. They're among estimated 50,000 workers in Russia from the isolated state. U.S. diplomats say that up to 80% of their earnings are sent back to Pyongyang to help prop up the regime, and then the rest of it they spend there, basically. You know what I mean? They can't send it to their family. They can't send it to anybody else. And a lot of them, if they don't have family, I guess if you go and do that, it's a guarantee that your family will be safe and okay. Because if you lose your family, they have nothing keeping you there, and these people would just bug out, right? Because you can't threaten somebody that you're going to harm their family if you've already harmed their family. So you can, there's a lot of reasons to go do this, right? I mean, it's not just slave labor. It's under duress. It's hostage labor, which is even worse. Like, it's gross. And it's exactly what happens in Xinjiang. All right, let's grab another question before I go on another
Yeah, I've got one from Lindsay Leiter. Phil, what's it like being home? Tell us some stuff that's new, different, what you miss. Let's hear some personal Phil stories, whatever you'd like to share.
It's been weird, a little bit of culture shock, because of course I haven't been here in about a year. In Michigan, I'm seeing about 50-50 Harris signs on the lawn and Trump signs on the lawn, which is disturbing, but it's Michigan. That's to be expected. I landed in Chicago, and I went to go pay my respects at there's a statue down near the zoo it would have been Belarus where he would have been born. A guy by the name of Tadeusz Ceausescu who came over here and helped the colonial army. We know about like Lafayette and Rochambeau, but we don't know about all these Slavic guys who fought against the czars. There was a revolution in Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth at around the same time that we were fighting our revolution, because there was this, the ideas of the Enlightenment and creating a liberal democracy and all the rest of it. These guys fought against the Tsar, lost, and then came to 13 colonies and helped. So I went to go pay my respects to Tadeusz Ceausescu, and I was taking pictures there, and guess what happened? a big old Trump, rally, showed up with the flags and everything. And I have photographs, and I posted them on social media of these guys celebrating wanting to basically enthrone King Donald I beneath the statue of a guy who fought British kings, Russian czars, empire, the concept of empire, to create a liberal democracy. And the irony of these guys who are clamoring for a king beneath the statue of a guy who fought against that concept his entire life was not lost on me. So, it's been weird. It's been weird, but good. And it's and I'm I still get air raid siren alarms on my phone. I had to switch that off. But it's it's also jet lag. Huge distance. So, but so far so good.
Yay.
Right. Yeah. Cool. Let's grab another one. Yeah.
This is from Seattle Susie Q. Can you ask Hal if he's aware of any company that could replace Musk's satellite contracts?
Oh, yeah. Interestingly enough, with Bezos' thing, he has his own satellite system that is actually, I believe, higher orbit and more of a traditional satellite cell-like system. Because all of, for whatever Starlink says, you know how we always often talk about how, like, if you watch, Planet of the Apes or something, you look at how fast technology fell, how fast society can fall and all that kind of stuff. Okay. And one of the things is it takes years and everything grows up through the grass and the day after tomorrow and all that kind of stuff. Musk's satellites are in such low degrading orbit that they fall out of the sky all the time. One of the reasons why he has rockets in the air all the time is replenishing the Starlink satellites. There is no situation where they go up into orbit and they just stay there. They fall out all the time, and they're very small, so they just burn up on reentry. The size of them is probably about the size of my desk, or maybe even smaller, and you need lots of them. Okay, Bezos has a similar system, but it's a higher orbit. So the idea, and that's why it's taken them longer, is because it's more work to get that stuff to get up into higher orbit and stay there, and then link up and function. It's way easier to throw a bunch of cheap ones in low Earth orbit, and then they burn out. But you have a system up faster, but it'll also die faster. So yes, Bezos has one of those. The other thing too is that we don't need a satellite system if we have a wider range of stuff. Like 5G being what it is very short range. It's very high density is what you can send through it. But we still have 4G LTE systems all over the place. And we have these temporary, like we were dropping these all through North Carolina and the surrounding area, like on buoys, essentially. You can put them anywhere, floating in a river and that kind of stuff, to extend cell service to these areas. And that's what FEMA does. And it's a lot more reliable. The Starlink was already available in, say, North Carolina and these other places. And, the difference is, again, it's quick and dirty. It's the McDonald's of satellites. So what we will eventually have is, and I'll look up the name of Bezos's satellite system, but the idea is that it's going to be a Starlink killer. That's what he's been building for a while. And the reason it's going to take a little longer and will be more reliable when it's more widely available is because of a lot of what Musk does is splashy and quick. That's why he and Trump have so much in common. That's why the Cybertruck is so poorly designed, why it rusts, and why you can pull the panels off with your fingers. And it's why his Optimus robot originally was just a person in a costume, and the most recent unveiling that he had, they were literally being teleoperated by a guy with a VR helmet and gloves on, 8 feet away, because it's for show. That's why he did it on a movie backlot. A lot of what he's doing is BS. He didn't create Tesla. He paid for the company, the inventors of Tesla, and those guys, all the engineers are still basically, the two main guys left, but all the engineers and builders are all there. He doesn't even have the vision of someone like Steve Jobs, where he knows the engineering that's going into it. He just points and says, do this, and tells everybody he's going to do this until it fails. So, yes, I'll look that up real quick, but grab another question and I'll look up the...
Sure thing. Yeah, this one's for Phil from 56 Nick Rich. All this election talk, what's up with politics in Ukraine?
Politics in Ukraine are they're okay for now, but the fact that there hasn't been a presidential election because there's martial law, which is 100% legal under the Constitution, that's fine. It can be done. It's legal. But the longer and longer this goes on without any kind of question to Zelensky's, right to maintain that office, at some point there's going to be a larger question of like, well, how long are we going to go without a presidential election? And I can see the beginning of that just starting. But there's another major political story that's happening right now in the region, and that's actually in Georgia. The Republic of Georgia is having their parliamentary elections, and it's a big deal because it's the question is whether or not a pro-Moscow political party will regain or keep a hold of power in parliament, or whether a pro-European coalition of parties can move Georgia in the direction of Europe. This is a problem for Moscow because Georgia is their kind of part of their soft underbelly in the Caucasus, where they have a lot of issues. As a matter of fact, I think there was just a running gunfight in Grozny or something in Chechnya. But that whole region is very liable for upheaval. So there's this major election going on. So I'm keeping an eye on that happening today. Polls have closed about an hour ago, I think, as we speak. We'll see how it goes. I'm hoping that the coalition pro-European party obviously wins, but I'm also hoping that there won't be violence if one denies the other. So that's a political situation we should all be keeping an eye on.
So real quick, the reason I couldn't come up with a name or whatever is because it's called Project Kuiper. It's based on the Kuiper Belt. That's the Amazon system that I was talking about. It goes live in January of next year. They will start launching. They've secured 80 launches over the next year to put their satellites in space. They've done, they've got 3 up, and their system will offer their business model version of it. Their regular one will have 400 megabits standard, and their largest model, which is for enterprise government and telecommunication applications, that would be the MEs of the world, is 1 gigabit per second. Which is pretty rock solid. I mean, that's almost fiber optic level that they're going to have. And Kuiper will be a direct competitor specific to that from to Elon Musk's system as well, and they will be using most cases it'll be Air and Space, ULA, and Blue Origin, which is Amazon's own rocket system to carry most of that up, and SpaceX. They have actually bought room on some SpaceX rockets to put their own satellites up. Because the facility is in, they rent it out. So why not? If it's cheaper than launching your own, they're going to use SpaceX rockets to get their stuff into orbit. But it'll be higher Earth orbit than I think it's 430 miles. Where is it? 590 kilometers to 630 kilometers, which is about 367 to 392. Theirs are going to be in the 400 range, which will be up in the in the top end of it. In the 492, closer to that, which is his are real low Earth. They just kind of barf them out as soon as they clear. And that's how he gets so many of his in orbit, but they also degrade and fall out of the sky. So they've been trying to, that's why it's taking longer for the Kuiper system to work, because they want it to go up and stay up. So, a gigabit system worldwide with probably 1 billion customers. It's one of the reasons why Amazon's stock is equal to or greater than Tesla's all the time, and it doesn't fluctuate as much because it's very forward-looking, futuristic technology. So there you go, the Kuiper system, and that will be a direct competitor, and it won't be the only one. The Saudis are trying to put up their own system, and the Chinese want to create their own centralized system around China, which is so weird. It's creating an intellect dome around the country. It's so dumb. But, they got to create their own private internet, their intranet, because they can't allow their people access to the outside. It's why their robots are effectively stupid until they ship to another country. We got to take a break. We'll be back right after this. We have a bit of a happy ending for sure, not the least of which is that our dear friend Philip Ittner is not currently in a war zone. And, say what you will about parts of Michigan militia territory, but at least, not an active one. And we'll be back right after this. Yeah, so this is the system right here. This is the, move him over here. So there you go. This is the Project Kuiper thing. Mm-hmm. And these will be, yeah, it's very similar. They're bigger than the receiver is bigger than the SpaceX one. But this is the newest statement from them. So it's October 3rd, 2024. This is fairly recent. This is the closest one to it, but it's slightly larger so you can have a better response. But it also has a solar panel built into it. So while it is powered, it will also have a battery in it or adapted to it so that you can have it can be battery operated off of a solar panel. So you can truly, this is all part of the off-grid movement by the what I would call trickle-down off-grid that's happening with all the billionaire class. That all of them read Atlas Shrugged and went, if I'm going to live in a hollowed out mountain and outside the Denver airport, listen here, then I'm going to have to create. It's why solar energy is moving so much faster. It's why our battery technology is getting so, because hey, listen here, they want us all to move below. I'm telling you what, right now, man. Come on, we're all going to move down into the Denver airport. Forget about it. Follow me down the steps behind the mural, Johnny Million. You know you want to go. Don't be afraid. Come on. We look just like each other, except I got a bigger...
Time to say goodbye.
All right.
Cue music.
I am happy, you are happy, let us be happy together.
No, not that music. The one Hal sings.
Oh.
Not that one. This one. Now let's get back to the Hal Sparks radio program, Mega Worldwide.
Boats and hoes.
Boats and hoes.
Oh, man, that's one of my favorite songs in the whole wide world, buddy.
Oh, man.
Yeah. That was, by the way, can I just say, whatever, that's Time to Say Goodbye from Bolero. That's the song Trump keeps playing at his ever fading smaller gatherings where after a couple people die and he rolls out Ave Maria, he also plays this song. Right, this is the hey, I'm the songbird of my generation and I have the voice of an angel. Mm-hmm.
Boats and hoes.
That song is Time to Say Goodbye. And he plays the Italian version, I guess, and the English version too. So he doesn't even let it slip by. Like he lets the second verse play, and people are like, "Wait a minute, is he dying? What is happening?" It's like something you play at a listening party to tell everybody you've got stage 4 cancer. You know what I mean? Like it's really weird. It's not good. Don't again. He stopped playing Hold On, I'm Coming, which, thank God, which, by the way, plays YMCA, which is basically the same thing, translated. Let's be honest. If there was a subtitle for Hey Now for YMCA, that would be it. That said, all right, happy ending time. Like I said, we're very glad that Philip Ittner is joining us in the States, and he will be voting in person in Michigan, a swang state, if I do say so my damn self. Tuesday we have the Halloween Ultimate Jam Night show, which will be very exciting. I have not decided on my costume quite yet. It's got to be something I can dance and sing in, which is always the issue. You know what I mean? That's always the thing. Yeah. And then Sexy Liberal.
One of those mascots with a big head.
Yeah, exactly. You can't do it. Well, although I could go as one of those, whatever, the masked singer things. I could create my own masked singer outfit. But they're always so sweaty when they take the head off.
Looks like
it's always depressing. Yeah. So that we'll figure that one out. And then Sexy Liberal LA is a week from tomorrow, or a week from today. Very exciting. Our guests, at the very least, we know for sure. I'm fairly certain Martin Sheen's going to be with us. Mark Hamill, also Adam Schiff, and a myriad of other people who will just be hanging out. Kind of like when we did Chicago, because it was like we had a mini DNC backstage. Like everybody was there. Yeah. So
I'll be there.
That was fantastic.
I'm coming in.
Yes, and Philip Ittner. I was getting to that, and the guest of honor for me, anyways. Philip Ittner will be joining us. Sorry, I'm getting my my camera thing back up. And Johnny Million has a bit of a story to tell, apparently. That was his happy ending about Ty and us.
Yeah, when we were, I kind of blew most of it in between the breaks, but we were when we were dropping him off after dinner. I asked him if he heard us praising him the other day, and he was like, "I have to admit, I'm a little bit behind," but he goes back and listens to all of our shows. And I told him that we were raving about the stuff from Naomi's Solar Pumpkin and Had to Move. He was like, "Really?" I recorded that in a hurry in a hotel room, and it was so surreal, just the way that once you put something out there, you don't know how it's going to be received. And it's just so wild being able to talk to him about all of these things.
Right. I gotta say, there's so much music that's like that, where you're like, you want to hear that it took them a long time and it was really difficult and they labored over it, like you do when you're writing a song, and they're like, "Nah, I farted that one out in like 2 hours," and you're like, "Damn it!"
Right.
He saved himself. I have to say, I feel that way when we talk about songs in King's X and some of my favorite artists, because they create a song that's just something I've loved my whole life, and they're like, "I did it in an afternoon. I never knew that was going to be a hit. I didn't think anybody would like it." That kind of stuff. I have the same problem. Charlene hates me for the same reason. Who opens for me when I do stand up, because she will labor over bits, and then I will go, like, she literally at one show at Flappers, she came up and said, she was she was opening, and she goes, "You guys I'm going to bring him up in a minute," or whatever, Hal, and we do all the time, and I swear the guy, there's a couch on stage at Flappers, and she's like, "I work really hard on my stuff, and I write it and stuff, and then he can come up and he could talk about this couch for an hour and make it funny and stuff, and it's very frustrating." So I literally came up there and based my entire act on the couch, and she was she's in the corner just going, "Go!" at the back of the club, and it was awesome. That's it. So, all right, let's grab a couple more questions, because we got a couple of minutes left. I want to remind everybody, vote. Yeah. Vote is the most important thing. Vote. And this even goes to the maggots. If you're going to vote for Trump, man, and then shut the hell up when he loses. I don't want you not voting and going, "I was not allowed and I was making up some excuse." No. Vote, participate. That's the best way to participate in our political system. It's nonviolent. You get to say your part, and if you lose, you lose. Get over yourself. We had to. You will too. All right. Let's grab another question, Johnny.
Yeah, so this is from Ed's 3D Tech. Can you ask Philip about the IDF taking out drone factory in Iran and the effect of productions for Russia?
Yeah, that was a pretty good. First off, it was a sizable explosion, so goodness knows how much explosives were there. Of course, it was welcomed in Ukraine. The whole thing with the Shahed drone that Iran provides to to Russia to attack Ukraine is one of the things that the Ukrainians point to when they hear about escalation management policy from the West, because there's Russia doesn't have any problem with any escalatory. They'll bring in Iranian drones, they'll bring in North Korean soldiers, they'll fire here, they'll fire there. There's no restriction on their side, and yet you're tying one of our arms behind our back because you're afraid of an escalation with Russia. That it'll be seen as this multinational war effort between the West and the East, and the Ukrainians say that's already happened. The Russians are already involving a multinational effort, and you are giving us these weapons, but you're giving us these weapons with certain restrictions. It's time to lift those restrictions. Right. I have said all along, it depends on what happens in the election. I think there's a real fear within the Biden administration that an overplaying your hand in Ukraine and having it bite you in the backside would be very bad for American domestic politics. So as sad as it is that American domestic politics are affecting things in Ukraine, I think everybody's waiting for the election to be over so they know which way this is going to go before they start making much more bold moves.
Right. Can I show real quick one particular story that I left out of the happy ending real quick that I think is particularly fun. I'm just going to share it with the chat and the news and everybody. This is off of Yahoo Finance Futurism. Truth Social funders accuse each other of blowing millions on gambling and prostitution. For those of you that don't know, Trump had this this SPAC group, that financed his Truth Sinkhole site, and it's been losing money, and that's hilarious and whatever, and we've been enjoying that as it happens. But it was not supposed to tell anybody who where the money was going. That's what a special access campaign or whatever is about. Like that's where SPAC comes from. Is that you're like, it's like a grab bag at a toy store. You can buy this toy for $10, or for $10 you can get one of these bags, and in it could be something worth $50. It could be worth $2, but you never know. And you might get in on the ground game, and you're like, well, I got $100. I'll get 10 bags. What are the chances I'll get something that's actually worth? Maybe a couple of them are good. That's how SPAC investment goes. Big investors throw it across a bunch of these things. Well, everybody was telling everybody it was Trump Media and Technology Group, so people were dumping money into it for political influence. Well, a couple of the guys that did it, they made a bunch of money in the very beginning of it because of the sucker drive, and they spent it all on hookers and blow. So, and now they're mad at each other and suing each other about where the money went. Because apparently, and I don't know if you know this, but apparently Truth Sinkhole stock is not worth what it once was. I really don't follow these kind of things, but it apparently, and I think this is according to Yahoo Finance, what's the quote? Sucks. It sucks as an investment. It sucks.
Sinkhole.
You don't say.
Yeah, I do say. So we got time for one more quick one, I think, Johnny, before we run out of time.
Yeah, so this is from Jennifer Rafferty. Is there anything from the States that Phil will be bringing back to Ukraine?
I've got some kit for the studio that I couldn't get over there, so I'm going to bring it back, mostly like specialized cabling and things like that. But I'll be taking back like some A1 steak sauce. I know a lot of people think it's sacrilege to put steak sauce on a steak, and I can see where that I can see that perspective. But I love
you got to taste it first. That's all. Depends on the steak. You just got to taste it first. Yep.
I'll bring back some Michigan paraphernalia, like a hat or a big. You can only buy those like enormous mugs here in the States, so I might get one of those with a big golden M on the side. I don't know, little things like that you can't get in Ukraine. Why not?
Yeah, awesome. Well, I want to remind everybody, On the Edge is Philip Ittner's talk show podcast.
Episode coming up tomorrow, talking about Crimea.
Fantastic. Johnny Million has a live stream 2 days a week. It's Johnny Million on YouTube and Twitch. And, of course, our dear friend Boston Brian has his show on Sundays as well. You got to check that out. And he's covering a lot of the long-form Trump rallies, which I've done it, and it's the Lord's work, and it's very difficult, and we love him for it. So check that out. It's Blunt Politics with Boston Brian tomorrow on his channel. And I'm Hal Sparks. Hal Sparks Megaworldwide is the greatest live stream you will ever see, so prepare yourself accordingly. We'll see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
I'm putting that link in the chat for everybody of the there it is. The Russian interest rate rise to 21%. Ours is at 4.75 right now, 4.75%. 0.75. Yeah, theirs is at 21% right now because apparently inflation is a little out of control there. So, yeah, 21%. Yeah, the whole country is a gas station with no gas, and the debit machine charges 20% of whatever you're taking out. And you
can't even sell your gas.
No,
you can
right,
only sell it, to yourself.
That's right. You can pour it on yourself like in whatever
Zoolander.
the blue steel. Yeah, Zoolander. Just anyways, you guys are wonderful. I'll let you guys go. I know.
Right. I'll talk to you on Wednesday, and then I'll see you next week.
Absolutely, and then if you're still in town, I don't know what your return schedule is when you're going back, but on election day I will be doing.
Yeah, I'll be there.
Okay, you'll be in the States or you'll be in Ukraine?
No, I'll be in the States. I leave
Great.
at the end of that week. So
okay, great.
Yeah.
So I would love to have you come on during my 24-hour live stream. So we'll work that out. Andrea will help us line up everybody, and it'll be awesome. All right, I'll let you guys go. Thank you so much. Take care. See you soon. There they go. Let them breathe. Thanks. Yeah, I always keep them hanging around like Rob Glenn, and I get them on the hook, and then they're like, I got shit to do, and I'm like, but Midwestern goodbye, but Midwestern goodbye. Don't you like Midwestern goodbye? Sad how. You guys, on the other hand, you love yourself some Midwestern goodbye, don't you, chat room? Don't you? Don't you wish your chat room was hot like mine? Don't you? So thank you guys for the super chats today and the support. I see. I've run out of disk space on this. I will manage the storage later. Excellent. My goodness. Lots of videos in there. That's a lot of stuff. Oh dear. I've been recording a lot of my vertical videos, and apparently I've run out of space. So my computer's like, hey, buddy, knock it off. All right, so I got to go clear out my hard drive and then defrag it. I'm not afraid. I would defrag in public, I got to tell you, but I will not because I've got to save something for my only hals. But I hope you all have an anxiety goat for the election. You will not need it, but I will be selling a gold version of these to maggots. It'll be real gold paint. And it will be genuine gold spray paint, and that will be over this thing. And they can just on election, the day after election, all the way to the weekend, as these slowly but surely they're declaring Harris the winner, and they just keep. I think it's going to be good. I think who's going to buy these? Maggot evangelicals are going to buy these. It's going to happen. So, okay. From Water Goddess, I am rolling my wheelchair over a mile to go vote. Oh, my God. Go for it. Please be safe. That's a lot. I would hope you could get a ride, but oh, my God. But it's fun to do it in person. So, be safe, Water Goddess. And until Monday, I will see you guys then. Take care of yourselves and take care of the kidney.
The kidney has a very special place in the heart.
You don't say.
Captain's log.